Welcome. This week, we're going to look at the world through two totally different lenses. First, we've got these huge, globe-spanning decisions that can reshape entire economies. And then, we're going to zoom all the way in to the tiny, pixel-perfect details that change how you see your own screen. Okay, I know what you're thinking. What in the world connects a White House trade order to the colors on your phone? It sounds like a stretch, right? But that's exactly what we're going to unpack. We're going to see how these massive geopolitical events and the tiny design choices in our digital lives are actually connected. Let's find out.
So here's the plan. First, we'll dive right into a huge trade reset between the US and India. We'll look at who wins, who loses, and of course, how the markets reacted. Then, we're going to switch gears and zoom in from that global stage to the screen right in your hand and see how your digital world is also being reshaped, one pixel at a time.
All right, let's start with the big one. This new trade agreement between India and the United States. And look, this isn't just some minor handshake deal. We're talking about a framework that is literally set to redirect billions and billions of dollars in goods all across the globe.
So, the absolute heart of this deal is a massive cut in tariffs. For years, Indian exporters selling things like textiles and leather were getting hit with duties as high as 50%. I mean, that makes it incredibly tough to compete. But now, those barriers have been lowered a lot. And for some really key agricultural products, they've been wiped out completely, down to zero. This is a potential game changer for these industries, for sure.
But here's the catch. This wasn't just a simple trade talk. As this U.S. executive order makes pretty clear, these tariff cuts came with a very significant string attached. And that is a commitment from India to stop importing Russian oil. It's just a really powerful example of how economic incentives are used as tools in foreign policy.
Now, India's public response? Well, it's been a little more nuanced. Officials haven't exactly confirmed the U.S. version of how things went down. Instead, what they've emphasized is their number one national interest, making sure they have a steady, reliable energy supply for 1.4 billion people. And from their perspective, that means they have to source energy from all kinds of global partners, just based on the realities of the market.
Okay, so whenever you have a deal this huge, you know it's going to create some ripples. So let's take a look at the direct impact on the ground. Who really stands to win from this, and who's raising some serious concerns? The winners here seem pretty clear, and the potential gains are significant. For India's textile and apparel industry, this means way better access to that massive American market. For leather goods, we could be looking at a 30% jump in exports in just the first year. And for the gems and jewelry sector, which has been really struggling, this is like a desperately needed lifeline. But, not everyone is celebrating. Not by a long shot. A major coalition of farmer unions has just slammed the deal. They've actually vowed to protest what they're calling a total surrender. There are also all these questions swirling around the potential import of genetically modified animal feed from the U.S., and local spirit producers are getting ready for some really tough competition. It just goes to show you the complex trade-offs you get with any big agreement like this. With all of this going on, you can bet the financial markets were paying very, very close attention. So how did investors and the currency actually react to all this news? Well, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. India's main stock index, the Nifty, just surged, pushing it super close to its all-time high. I mean, that's a huge signal that investor confidence got a major boost after this deal was announced. The Indian rupee also got a nice boost, getting stronger against the dollar. Now, this is a classic double-edged sword. On the one hand, a strong rupee is fantastic for importers because foreign goods get cheaper. But for India's gigantic IT services sector, which earns most of its money in dollars, a stronger rupee means those foreign earnings convert into less local currency. Get this, just a 1% rise can shave off almost half a percentage point from their operating margins. That's a significant hit in such a competitive industry. All right, let's hit pause on the world of international trade for a minute, because while all of these huge economic shifts were happening, another kind of evolution was taking place, but on a much, much smaller scale, right on the screens we look at every single day. So let's zoom in on what's new in our digital feed. So it's kind of funny when you think about it. On one side, you have economists and diplomats wrestling with these huge macro-level challenges like tariffs and global supply chains. And on the other side, you've got designers and developers focused on these tiny micro-level problems, like how can we make reading on a screen easier on the eyes, or how do we create a specific mood with just a color palette? Both are trying to shape human experience, just on totally different scales. You know what's a perfect example of this? The evolution of dark mode. It's not just a simple on-off switch anymore. Oh no. Designers now think in terms of specific palettes, and each one is crafted to make you feel something. A tech blog might use a clean, monochromatic look to feel really sleek and elegant, while a wellness app might go with muted pastels to create a feeling of calm. The whole goal is to use color to subtly shape your experience and your mood. And this focus on making things easier for us, the user, extends to the tools we use every day. For example, being able to do something complex, like generate a QR code directly inside a PowerPoint presentation, that's a small thing, but it's a telling innovation. It's all about removing friction and making that bridge between our physical and digital worlds just a little more seamless, one click at a time. And so that brings us right back to where we started, with these two parallel worlds. One is the world of big picture geopolitics, trade deals that affect entire nations. The other is the world of tiny details, color choices that just affect your mood. The real question isn't which one is more important, but how do we manage to pay attention to both? Because really, our lives are shaped just as much by the global headlines as they are by the design of the screens we use to read them.